Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Megan Peasley, and I'm the Iowa SourceLink Program Coordinator at the University of Northern Iowa's John Papa John Entrepreneurial Center. Here, we work with the Iowa Economic Development Authority to bring the Iowa SourceLink platform to all business owners. Whether you're looking to start, grow, fund, or even exit your business, Iowa SourceLink is here to help you. We provide step-by-step guides, make helpful referrals to our nearly 400 business partners, and house the Business License Information Center. We also have the pleasure of presenting these webinars in partnership with the Iowa Department of Revenue. In today's webinar, Brett Park will be providing an overview of the requirements for the electronic submission of W-2s and 1099s to the Iowa Department of Revenue. Before we get into that, I have a few housekeeping items. First, today's webinar is being recorded and will be available within the next week. You'll receive a link to today's recording in that same email that you'll receive as proof of your attendance. The slides for today's webinar will be shared momentarily in the chat box by Sophie Troxel. Sophie and I will be sharing other resources and contact information if and when they're brought up during the webinar in the chat box. Finally, please enter any questions you may have into the Q&A box located in the bottom half of your screen. We do ask that you focus on asking general questions that could apply to everyone. If you have a question specific to your situation, we recommend that you talk to the Department of Revenue directly. We are going to hold off on answering the questions that come through until the very end. And with that, Brett, I'll let you take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Megan. Welcome, everyone, to the 2024 electronic filing of W-2s and 1099s. Again, I'm Brent Park, the program manager. I might have worked with you in the past, but welcome, and we'll start beginning the presentation here. So just a little bit of overview that we're going to go through is we'll be looking at tax year 2024 filing requirements and due dates, accepted forms and file types, electronic filing options that are available, and then some step-by-step filing instructions. We'll also do penalty and filing extension information, as well as available resources. So first off, we'll look at the tax year 2024 filing requirements. As you can see here on the screen, we have the verified summary of payments, the VSP. This was basically introduced a while ago, but we discontinued this, I think, about 4 years ago. So that's still no longer required to be filed. So you can disregard that. And also, we don't have a plan to bring this back. So if you had that in, a question as far as the VSP or the verified summary of payments, we're not requiring that to be filed at this point in time as well, or in the future. So you can just disregard that if you have any questions about that. Businesses with W-2s and or 1099s must electronically file W-2s containing Iowa tax withholding with the Iowa Department of Revenue by February 15th, 2025. Again, as you can see the box down the screen, there's a little disclaimer there, due dates. If a due date ends on a weekend or a holiday as defined in Iowa Code section 42.9a, substitute the next regular business day for the due date. So this year, February 15th does land on a Saturday, so just substitute to the next business day. As far as the 1099 forms and the W-2 forms, they are considered separate, but they have the same filing due dates. So as you can see on the screen, February 15th, 2025 for both 1099s and W-2s. As far as the file layouts and file specs, there were no changes to that. We do follow the specifications from the SSA publication 42007 for filing W-2s and the IRS publication for filing 1099s. Both of them have additional state requirements, but there were no basically updates to the file specifications for Iowa compared to last year. So therefore, the layouts are the same for tax year 2024. Also, in regards to businesses that have canceled withholding permits, we do still allow up to 3 years to access your withholding count, so that way you can submit W-2 and 1099 information to the state of Iowa. So an example would be maybe you canceled your withholding permit midway through the 2024 tax year. You still have to wait until basically January 2nd, 2025 to file the 2024, but you still have up to the 3 years to do that. So technically 2027. Now, on top of that as well, we do obviously have the filing due date for 2024. So maybe it was an older year or something of that nature. You still have access to that up to 3 years. So I just wanted to mention that on canceled withholding permits. Also on the screen, you'll see in the little disclaimer box in red at the bottom, only W-2s and 1099s containing Iowa tax withholding are required to be filed. So just an example, maybe there's a business with 10 10 employees that have 10 W-2s, and only 5 of them have Iowa withholding listed on them. You're only required to submit those 5 W-2s into the state of Iowa. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't submit all 10. We will accept all 10, but you're only required to do those 5. Same with 1099s, only those forms with Iowa withholding we require to be submitted into us. Moving on, we'll look at 1099 forms accepted. So on the screen here, you'll see basically the 1099 forms that possess an estate with tax withholding field within the form. Now, the more common ones that you'll see is the miscellaneous, the NEC, and the R. Those are probably going to be your most common 1099 forms that have Iowa tax withholding on them. But again, we will accept all forms that have, the state withholding field on them. So you can certainly send that information in to us. But again, we're only requiring the ones that have Iowa tax withholding listed on them. So moving on, what does Iowa not accept? So Iowa does not accept paper copies of W-2s and 1099s. So please don't send those basically paper copies of W-2s and 1099s to the department. Also, please don't send your original information into us. We just discard that information. We don't do anything with it. We do require everyone that files W-2s and 1099s to us to file them electronically. So they have to be filed electronically. We also don't accept the files created on the IRS or SSA website, also CD-ROMs, flash drives, or other file types such as PDFs or spreadsheets. So you can't technically change the file into like the file extension that we require from a PDF or spreadsheet and it be accepted by us. So it has to meet our file layouts. And as I mentioned prior, we have the certain publications that we follow from the SSA and the IRS. Those list the file layouts within them. And then on our website, our department website, we have our state deviations from there. We do accept zip files, but the zip files must be in the correct file layout and also the correct file extension. So it can't be a PDF or a spreadsheet and then zip it because it won't be in the correct file layout. So we won't be able to accept the zip file from there. So again, there's a twofold there, correct file extension and correct file layout, and then you can zip it from there if needed. If you're using the upload method as one of our methods that you can file the information to, the files must be created using software that supports electronic filing of W-2s and 1099s to Iowa. So basically, a simple way to confirm this is when you're creating the information of the file itself, you'll have to actually, it'll actually list that it supports Iowa. You should have to choose Iowa as far as the state when you're creating the file itself. If you're still unsure if the file is going to support Iowa layouts, contact your software vendor to confirm if your version supports the Iowa W-2 or 1099 filings. Most software vendors do. However, they do sometimes charge additional fees to have that state filing option available. As far as when you submit that information into the IRS, why can't we just get that stuff from the IRS? That's a question that we get commonly. That's basically the combined reporting. So we don't support combined reporting with the IRS. Basically, we understand this is a burden because you have to file with the IRS and us, and we're adding those additional filing requirements to us. But this does help us on the back end. The IRS also doesn't require state information to be presented when you're filing to their site. So the combined reporting doesn't really help us in that regard because we're really after that state information during processing season. Also, this information helps us during processing season. Basically, it helps us expedite the processing of returns, helps us combat fraud, which basically that is a general fact that it helps and is a great value to all constituents, all taxpayers to the state of Iowa. So again, we do not participate in the combined reporting. So how to file W-2s and 1099s. So what are the methods that you can utilize? Well, you can do it yourself by manually keying the information. Up on the screen here, you'll see the forms that we do support. These are the most common forms that have Iowa withholding on them that you can utilize. So at this time, these are the only forms that we have available. So if you have something that's not on this list for manual key, you will have to do file upload. So on the other end, if you have a lot of employees or need to file 1099s other than the forms available on manual key, then use a service provider to submit your forms or a software vendor to create the file to be submitted. Again, the vendor must support electronic filing of W-2s and 1099s to Iowa. We also recommend checking with your accounting software first. Sometimes they will provide that available software for state filing on top of the accounting software that you possibly already have. We do discourage businesses and others creating the file themselves because it does require an AXI2 Notepad Plus text file programmer. So someone that can basically build the file, put it in the correct file layouts and positions, and then upload the file from there. They are complex files. So if you were to actually go out to the publications that we conform to, you'd see that those layouts are pretty complex. And we also don't create the file for you. We don't have basically a template that we provide, and we'll not also create the file and upload it for you. So you'll have to work with a programmer, service provider, or a software vendor in that regard. But those are our two different options: the manual key or the file upload. Okay. So submitting W-2s and 1099s. Now we're going to get into the portion of the presentation where we actually go through the screens, and it'll mimic what it looks like to actually submit the files into the state of Iowa. So as I mentioned, everybody has to go submit everything W-2 1099 related through GovConnect Iowa. So you get to GovConnect Iowa, you have to have a logon. So you enter your logon information, and then you get to this screen here. Basically, this appears to businesses or self-filers or even third parties that are filing on behalf of a client. You'll have to get to this account screen first. So this, as you can see on the screen here, I log in, I have the withholding account that I've attached to, and it has submit W-2s and 1099s here in the red box here. If you log in and you do not see the submit W-2s or 1099s or the withholding account in general, it means you're not connected to that account. Only those that have requested access and gained access to a withholding account will see the W-2s and 1099 submit link. So if you haven't, then you have to go through that process of requesting the access code to get linked to the withholding account. And after you've linked to that withholding account, you'll get the submit W-2s and 1099s to start submitting information into us. Third parties that file on behalf of clients, your extra step would be you're going to have to select a customer, and then you would get to this type of screen here. As long as you're attached and requested access and gained access to that withholding account for that client. So I select the submit W-2s and 1099s link. I get to the screen now. So you have the two different options. You have the upload file submission and manual key option here. As you can see here, we're going to start with the manual key for this part of the presentation. So I select manual key and then I press next. First screen that you'll be generated to you will be the employer information. So here you're going to be putting in the business information or employer information. You'll have the ID tax type, the ID number, and then the company name. And as you can see here in the box under withholding account number, that withholding account that you choose on the prior screen will appear here. Now it's going to be very uncommon for you to have multiple withholding accounts. I mainly see this with banks. So banks may have 1099s that they withhold on, and also employees for W-2s. So most businesses are going to only have the one withholding account. So again, it'll auto-populate here, and then you would enter everything in that's needed. Anything with a red asterisk is going to be required before you can move on. Also on this screen, this is all information for information purposes only. So let's say your address, you enter the address here. It's not going to update the address under your customer account or within your profile. Again, this is for information only. So this address here could be different from what you list on your main address for your business. So after I enter all the information in that's needed, I select next. And I get to this screen now. So here on this screen, you have the different options that we have available to you. So as I mentioned before, the W-2, the NACR, miscellaneous, W-2G, and 1099G. These are going to be, again, the most common forms that have Iowa withholding on them. If you don't see the form on here, then you're probably going to have to do a file upload in regards to sending that information in. But remember, we're only after the Iowa withholding field. So the forms that have Iowa withholding listed on them, those are the forms that we are requiring. So if those other forms that are not listed on this don't have Iowa withholding, then you're not required to submit those in. You can or you cannot in that regard. So again, we're after the ones that have Iowa withholding listed on there. So on this screen, I can select multiple form types. I can do all of them if I want. So maybe I had W-2s and 1099s to do. I can do that on one session, or I could do it individually per form. So I could do W-2s, submit it, and then go back and do 1099-Rs next. It depends on what you want to do and your preference in that regard. Also on this screen, you have the form year. So again, as I mentioned, we only do the last 3 tax form years. So starting January 2nd, 2025 is when we'll start accepting 2024, 2023, and 2022. If, like, say you had to do 2020 and 2021, and you entered that information in here, you enter 2021 under the form year, it'll give you an error and let you know, hey, we are only basically needing the 3 years of tax, the current tax year. So it'll give you an error and not let you move on. So for those of you that possibly have old tax years from like 2019, 2021 and below, we don't require you to submit that information in. You can basically not submit that information at this time. We don't have a method for that at this point in time. So again, we're going to be after 2024, 2023, and 2021 for the form years starting January 2nd, 2025 is when that'll open up. So in this example, I chose W-2 and I get to this screen now. All of the W-2s and 1099s that we offer for manual key, they will mimic the actual form itself. So you can basically just bring up that form and then basically enter the information in from those boxes if that's how you enter information from. So you can see here you have employee information, and then you have auto-populated from the prior screen the employer, so the business information. That'll auto-populate from that prior screen here. Everything with a red asterisk, again, it will be required, so you'll have to submit that information in. You won't be able to move on until you submit that information in. For those businesses that have employees that have no social security number, you will have to enter here in zeros. If you have multiple, then you do 000 and then 111. So if you have multiple employees with no SSN, that's where you'd enter that. That's how you'd enter that information in here. You can also add multiple W-2s. So at the bottom screen here, at the bottom of the screen, you see that red arrow. You can add a W-2, and that will add the other W-2, and then you start entering that information in. There is no limit on how many W-2s that you can enter on this. So you can certainly enter in as many as you want to, time permitting, obviously. We do have a save draft feature. That way, if you have multiple that you want to enter in, you can always save draft and then come back later to it and then continue entering in your submission. If you need to ever delete a W-2, maybe you didn't mean to add one, you just go up to this little X here at the top here next to employment information and delete the one that you want that you don't no longer need. So let's say I'm ready to move on. I've entered all my W-2 information in. I can select next and continue on. So this is kind of new for this year. This was kind of introduced midway last year, midway 2024. But we've added now a total field. This was a big request that we've implemented now. So that way, when you enter in your manual key W-2s or 1099s, it will total the Iowa income fields of all the W-2s and the Iowa withholding. So that is a nice feature to have, especially if you have like your W-3 or something up, you can match it up to make sure that the information in is correct. As far as printing this information off, we do not have a printing available as far as like a button that you can select. So if you're wanting to keep track of this information as you're entering it, you're going to have to screenshot it and going forward. So as far as the confirmation screen here and also the W-2s, 1099s themselves, you're going to have to just print screen those. We don't have a method to where you can print those all out, so you can kind of go back and see what you have. Also in that regard, once you submit this in and it's processed, you will not have access to the W-2 information again. We do that for security purposes, just in case you possibly got hacked, and then we don't want them to be able to go in and see your submissions and see all your W-2 information that you submitted in for your business, see your employees' SSNs and their income. So that's just a security feature that we have. So once you submit this information in and it's processed, you will not be able to see what you entered in on the W-2 information. So if you're wanting to keep track of that, screen print it and then save it from there. So let's say I confirm the information that I submitted in on the W-2 and 1099s. In this example, I did a 1099 just to show you what that looks like. I press the I confirm box at the bottom, and then I continue on and press next. And then you will get to the confirmation submission screen here. This is where you'll have to enter in your password, and then this is where you'll submit it in. Again, You have the save draft feature down below if you need to come back and do edits or anything like that or change anything. The thing to know is once you submit this in, you can only now then delete it. So after you submit it, it'll be in that submitted stage. So at 6 p.m. each evening and 6 a.m. each morning, it'll go process. So basically, depending on when you submit in your W-2, 1099 information will depend on like what time frame that'll go process. So then process basically means we received the information and we're basically processing your file or processing your submission at that point in time. So again, if you need to go back and edit anything, you want to do it prior to submitting it in. Otherwise, what you'll have to do is once you submit it in, you can go and delete it prior to 6 p.m. or prior to 6 a.m. Otherwise, if you forget what you submitted in and you were confused, or maybe you needed to add another W-2, you just go in and resubmit the information in again. So we disregard duplicate information and we use the last received information as the most current. So let's say, oh, I forgot what I entered in on this W-2. How do I see that? Well, you're not going to be able to see that information after it goes processed. So you won't be able to access that. So what we recommend doing is just going and resubmitting the information in again. And like I mentioned, we disregard duplicate information and we'll just use the last received information for data purposes. So we're ready to confirm and enter our password, and then we select submit. So we're done with our manual key process. Okay, so now we'll move on to the upload file submission section. So again, you'll get logged into GovConnect Iowa, you'll select your withholding count, select the submit W-2s, 1099s, and then you'll get to the upload file submission section. You'll select that as your option and you'll select next. Now you'll get to this attach a file screen. So here you'll select add attachment. You'll see it here on the screen under the red arrow, and then you'll get the select a file to attach. So you have two different form types you can do. You can do W-2 and 1099. Those are the only two types you can. On a note as well is if you're doing W-2G, you will have to select 1099 because the IRS handles the specifications for the W-2G. So basically it's under the 1099 realm as far as the specifications, and they include that within there. So again, W-2 upload, you select W-2 upload, or I'm sorry, W-2s, you select W-2 upload, 1099s or W-2G, you'd select 1099 as the upload type. Next, you'll have description. There is no naming format here, so you can pretty much enter whatever you want. We do suggest entering in like 2024 W-2s, 2024 corrected W-2s, it's 2023 W-2s, something in that nature. So that way, if you go and look at your submissions, you can tell, oh, I submitted 2024 W-2s here. It'll list it there. As well as next is the file section. So you have to choose a file, wherever that's located on your computer. You would select that, a pop-up will appear, and then you select the file from there. And then after we attach the file, we press OK. As far as the file itself, there is no naming format on that as well. So I press OK. And then we get here if there was errors within our file. So there's something wrong with our file layout, something in that regard possibly. So we get an error message and we have to press OK to continue on and see those errors. And everything will be in red, so red means stop. You won't be able to continue on from here. Basically, it detaches the file and tells you the errors at this point in time. Now, most errors will be need software developer intervention. We do have software developers to test, but we don't require them to test, so they possibly may not have updated the software. They may have something wrong with their software. So we suggest going back to the software developer you purchased the software from and then giving them the error information. So we give them the record type, the line, position and field, and then the error message. And then they should be able to assist you from there. Otherwise, they can reach out to us and we will work with the software developer on getting their software updated or possibly updating something on our side. There are also errors that possibly the user can fix. So like this one is more of a user error. So as you can see here, a valid tax year is required. 2020 is what was listed. And then the submission will only accept for the previous 3 tax years. So again, I wasn't within that 3-year tax period that we allow, so it wasn't allowing me to continue on. So we figure out the errors, we get with our software developer, possibly we get everything fixed, and we continue on and upload the file again. And now we get a green message. So everything looks good within the file. It meets our iOS file layouts, and we're able to continue on from here. So we select next. And then on this screen as well, it'll just relist the type, the file type, upload, and then the name and the description and the size. So we press next, and then we get to the confirm screen again. So here again, kind of like the manual key, we're confirming how many W-2s are on the or 1099s that are on the file. This is basically listing the number of employees, the W-2s that you'd be submitting into us, or 1099s itself. So maybe you had 16 and you see 15, you might need to go back and change the file up or redo the file. But if everything looks good here, I press I confirm, and then I press next. And then again, you get to that confirm submission screen, and you have to enter in your password from here. You do have the save draft again if you needed to. And again, just for a disclaimer, anything submitted after you press submit, you can only go in and delete prior to 6 p.m. or prior to 6 a.m., whichever one. And then you will have to then go resubmit information if you need to change it. So I press submit, and I'm submitted in my information. So that covers the file upload and manual key for like a business and third party. For those of you that are on the presentation here that are bulk filers, this is more for you. So your process would be, once you're approved and you've applied to be a bulk filer, and then you're approved, and then you create your web logon, you'll have to go to the I want to. Whereas on the prior screens for businesses that are self-filing or third parties filing on behalf of a client, you have to select the withholding account and then get to the W-2s, submit W-2s 1099s link. Bulk filers, you'll go to the I want to, find your bulk processing tile, and then submit W-2s and 1099s. Bulk filers are those that file for multiple clients on one file. So they would submit a file with multiple clients' information. They're technically a third party, but they would submit files for 10 businesses on one file. That's an example I would use. Again, for bulk filers, this is mainly just for you. If you do the manual key option, you're not really selecting a withholding count on the prior screen, so you have to manually enter the withholding account here. With that being said, for those of you that were in our prior system from before 11/15/2021, the 12-digit permit number is available to be used here as long as that permit number is was assigned to that business or to that client. In all else, everyone has the new 9-digit permit number, so use the 9-digit permit number for data purposes. So that's basically what we recommend doing, is using the 9-digit, because everyone has the 9-digit permit number. Not everyone has a 12-digit and 9-digit permit number. So just keep that in mind, bulk filers, when you're using the manual key here. Moving on to the corrected W-2. So how do I file my corrected W-2s? So you can create a new file using your software and upload it using the same filing method. So, like you did the original way. So you just do the file upload, attach the file, and then submit the file from there. So it's the same process as doing corrected. We know the IRS has a different type of submission process. Ours is exactly the same that you would do originally. So if you're doing corrected information, you just follow the same process as if you're submitting original information. With that being said, though, you're not contained to the filing method from the original upload or manual key. So let's say, for example, you uploaded a file with 10 employees' information on it, and one employee needed corrected. You could just do a manual key if you wanted on the corrected information for that one employee. Again, we will use the last received information as the most current for data purposes. So you don't have to necessarily do file upload for corrected information if you did it originally like that. Same with manual key. If you did manual key originally, you don't have to manually key for corrected information as well. You can do either one of them to send that information into us. At the bottom here, we list incorrect SSN submissions. There is an extra step with this. So say in that first example, you submitted it, you had 10 employees, and one of those employees had the wrong SSN on them. We want you then to do a file upload or a manual key with the incorrect SSN information first, zeroing out all currency fields. So that way it wipes out that data under the incorrect SSN, and then go back in and submit the information under the correct SSN with the correct currency fields. So there is an extra step if there's an incorrect SSN submission. So just be aware of that. We want you to wipe out that original data with under that bad SSN, and then go back in with the corrected information from there. And then as you can see there down at the bottom, the little in the red box, department will always use the last updated file for data purposes. Duplicate W-2 and 1099 forms will be discarded. So I've mentioned that quite a few times. So just keep that in mind when you're submitting information in. All right, we'll move on to penalties, filing extensions, and resources here. So this was introduced, penalties was introduced, I think 2 years ago. House File 2552 basically introduced a $500 civil penalty to each payer for each occurrence. And so there's two different kind of penalties here that you'll be looking at. So the first two bullets cover the first one. So willful failure to furnish an employee, non-resident, or other person with an income statement. Willfully furnishing false or fraudulent income statement. And as you can see here in the first example, number one, you have 500 times 10. So the example is we have a business with 10 employees and they never send out the W-2s to their employees. They could be penalized and get a penalty of $5,000. So 500 per employee times 10 would equal the 5,000 for failing to furnish each employee their W-2. Same with 1099s for the payee. The second part of the penalty is the last two bullets here. So willfully filing a false or fraudulent income statement with the department, or willful failure to file an income statement with the department. So that's that second example here. So say the same business didn't never send in the 10 W-2s to the state of Iowa, they could get fined a $500 penalty, just a flat $500 penalty for not furnishing that to the department. So that's the two differences of the penalty, but needless to say, that you may or not get that. You'll get a letter in the mail if you're going to be getting a penalty for basically late filing or not furnishing that information to your employee or payee. In regards to the filing deadline and filing extension, so let's say you can't meet that filing deadline, and again, keep in mind our disclaimer about the due dates. If it's on a holiday or on a weekend type of thing, it goes to the next business day. So the same with the filing extension. So we list February 15th, but again, that for the due date disclaimer, you take the next business day from a holiday or a weekend. So you are allowed one 30-day filing extension, but you must apply to it. So, and you can find that on our website on revenue.iowa.gov, and I'll show you that link here in the next couple slides, as well as on our GovConnect Iowa website. So that filing extension will be there, and it's only available from January 2nd until the filing due date, basically deadline. So that's the only time period you'll have. It is also 30 days from the filing deadline. So you take 30 days from the filing deadline and then add 30 days from there. And that's when technically your due date would be. Again, you have to file for the extension in order to receive it. It's not just an automatic approval. Everyone gets it. You have to file for it if you need it. We also give you an extra 15, 16 days. I know the IRS, they require W-2 of 1099 information January 31st, I believe it is. So we give you the extra 2 weeks, I believe. And then you have the 30-day filing extension that you can apply for. And then submitting test files. This is more for our software vendors, payroll service providers, and bulk filers. Again, you have to be an approved bulk filer in order to test, but we do have a testing site for those approved bulk filers, software vendors, or payroll service providers that want to test their software, test their files prior to submitting them in the production site. Here we have the resources. Again, this is what I mentioned before, where you can find all of our filing extension information, file specs, file layouts, FAQ, software vendors that have tested with us, that type of thing. So again, go to revenue.iowa.gov, select the I need to, and then you want to go down to the file a W-2 or 1099 link, and then from there, you'll be able to navigate that section of our website. Here's some more additional resources, our taxpayer services line, and also our options for W-2 1099 filing assistance, withholding, and GovConnect Iowa assistance. You can contact the taxpayer services line for that. Then we also have the email address for idr@iowa.gov. You can also do a send a message in GovConnect Iowa. And then again, there's our link to the revenue.iowa.gov for W-2 1099 information. Then we also list withholding tax. So just to summarize what we kind of went over here, again, we only require forms containing Iowa tax withholding to be filed. So again, only those forms that list the Iowa withholding on them, you have to submit into us. That doesn't mean you can't submit in ones that don't have it. We will still accept those. It's just those are the ones we require. Again, users must have access to the withholding account to file W-2s or 1099s on behalf of a business. So again, if you get into your GovConnect Iowa account and you don't see the withholding account and you don't see the submit W-2s and 1099s, then you don't have access to that withholding account. You're going to have to request access to it in order to get the submit W-2s and 1099s link available to you. Tax year 2024 filings are not available until January 2nd, 2025. We also have that 30-day filing extension that you must apply for in order to receive it. And that'll be on our website or GovConnect Iowa. You can find it both places if needed. And then failure to comply could result in a civil penalty of $500 or more. We touched upon the penalty. And then as far as our resources, visit our department website, revenue.iowa.gov, or contact the department's taxpayer service team for assistance. And then you can follow us here on our social media sites we list here. And then those are located on our website as well if you need to gain access to those. And then I appreciate everyone joining this presentation. We will now start fielding questions. Okay, let me see here. Chat, do you have anything that you want me to touch upon that you see all common?
The only thing I'll mention is we've got some questions about the W-4 Iowa W-4 forms being available. Those should be available within the next 2 weeks on the department's website, which is revenue.iowa.gov. There was also some questions about the due date with February 17th being a federal holiday. That would push the official due date for W-2 and 1099 filing back to February 18th, which is Tuesday. So just FYI there. I think that's really the main questions we got. A lot of questions about if you still have to file with the Iowa, if you're filing with the IRS or vice versa. And it's no, we have separate filing requirements. So again, as Brent alluded to at the very beginning of this webinar, that even though you do send this information to IRS, we do require it to file with us separately because again, we don't. The IRS and Social Security Administration does not require state tax information, there is a delay in getting some of that information. So by you filing directly with the state of Iowa, we are able to utilize that to combat fraud and expedite refund processing. So yes, we do eventually get W-2 and 1099 information from the IRS, but again, we don't always have all the information that we require on the state filing. So which is why we have a separate filing requirement. One other quick question we got was the withholding account number. And if we still accept the old FEIN plus 001 withholding account number, we do accept that. However, we would encourage you to utilize the new withholding permit numbers that have been issued. If you're not sure what that is, when you log into your GovConnect Iowa account and you go to your accounts tab, as was demonstrated here in the presentation, you can find that withholding account number there. It's a 9-digit number now, but we do still accept the 12-digit one, but we do recommend using the new 9-digit withholding account numbers just to ensure that it is accurate. And you should be using that on your W-2s and 1099s too moving forward. But again, not the end of the world if you don't. We'll still accept both.
So what Chet's mentioning on the withholding account, I have it blacked out here, but as you can see on the screen here, it would appear there if you have access to that withholding account. It'll only list the 9-digit here.
There were also some questions about like QuickBooks and other softwares. They have the ability to create files, and do we accept those? Again, if you are using software to create a file to upload for Iowa W-2 and 1099 filings, you should have to select the state of Iowa when creating that file. If it doesn't, if you're not prompted to select Iowa when you're creating that W-2 or 1099 file, then it's most likely it's not going to be in the correct format, most likely. So again, if you don't see the option to create a file for Iowa, then you might want to contact your software developer to confirm if that option is available with your package, or if it isn't, if they do have how you can get access to that. Worst case scenario, you can always use the manual key and send option.
And on top of that, Chet, I would say with QuickBooks, I think they mainly what I've been seeing in the last few years is they do PDFs and spreadsheets. So again, we don't accept PDFs and spreadsheets as far as a file type to be uploaded in. So just FYI on that. Like Chet said, check with QuickBooks and see if they have the available software. And again, you would have to select Iowa as the filing state in order to be able to basically upload the file to Iowa anyway. So definitely check with your software developer on that information. Okay.
Just to clarify too, on the deleting a submission, a file submission, Brent mentioned that we process GovConnect Iowa transactions twice daily, one at 6 a.m. and one at 6 p.m. So if whether or not you'll be able to delete that file, it really depends on or when you'll be able to when the deadline is to delete it from being processed. It depends on when you actually submit it. So any file submitted after 6 a.m. in the morning, you would have until 6 p.m. that evening to delete it before it gets processed. And an easy way to find out if it's processed or not is you can go to the I want to tab and go to view my submissions and look for that W-2 file there. You can click on it, and if the delete link is available for you, you can delete it. If it's not and it's been processed, then what we'd recommend doing is just file out a new W-2, submit a new W-2 file to update those records that were on the original submission, and that will, as mentioned here, we'll use that last uploaded file for data purposes. We've got some more questions coming in here. I have my payroll companies set up at GovConnect Iowa.
I'll answer this one live. So one says, can an employee request their W-2 info from the Iowa Department of Revenue? No, we do not. We do not give out copies of W-2 information submitted in by the business or the employee or the employer. So if the employee comes to us and asks and requests a copy of the W-2 information, we do not provide that to them. We send them back to the business. Otherwise, we send them to the SSA if the business isn't answering, and then from there, IRS.
So there's some questions about from tax accountants or payroll service providers and how they have multiple clients that they need to file for. If you are a registered bulk filer with the Department of Revenue, then you do not have to request access to each client's account. You can submit those W-2 and 1099 files for any one of your clients, because again, you have to go through an approval process to become a bulk filer, but you have the ability to submit W-2s and 1099s for basically all your clients without requesting access. Now, if you're not a registered bulk filer, then yes, you would actually have to gain access to your clients' withholding accounts in GovConnect Iowa. Now, you can do that by requesting access through GovConnect Iowa. For those of you not familiar with that process, it does require us to mail a letter to the business in question, and they would be given a access code letter or access code that they would then give to you that you would use to in GovConnect Iowa to gain access. Another option for gaining access to clients' accounts is if their company or they have people that are already connected to their accounts in GovConnect Iowa, they can actually grant you instant access through their existing web logon. If they're not, we do have instructions on the department's website on how to do that. If you're not able to find those or struggle with that, then I recommend contacting our taxpayer service team. They can walk you through that process of how someone else can grant you access to their account if they're already connected and have a web logon. I'm not seeing anything else in here. I know there was some questions about the IRS movement to a more an XML file layout type. That is something that the department's been considering. We're kind of playing that close to the chest and waiting to see if they decide to move everything to XML. So that won't really impact you all as filers. It'd be more the software vendor community that would then be prompted to have to make changes to the file, how they create files for you as customers. So. Let's see. I don't think we have another question there, but we can answer that in the chat.
Yeah, I'll answer that one in the chat.
I think we're good to go here. I don't think there's any other questions.
Well, thank you so much, Brett and Chet, for answering all those questions and sharing all this content regarding individual taxes and W-2 and 1099s. As a reminder, this webinar was recorded and will be available to watch on our website or by searching for Iowa Source Link on YouTube within next week. If your questions were not answered today, we would recommend contacting the Iowa Department of Revenue for more information. As a reminder, Iowa SourceLink does not provide a continuing education certificate for your attendance today. We do, however, send out an email to everyone who participated within a few days after the webinar concludes that you can use as proof of your attendance. Today's webinar was the last webinar for the 2024 calendar year. Thank you to everyone who presented or attended our webinars this year. Stay tuned for next year's webinars. We will announce the schedule on our website, iowasourcelink.com, and our social media accounts. Until next time, have a great rest of your day and happy holidays.